Hey, everybody, you are familiar with Ha-Yovel because I visited them many times during my trips to Israel while I was covering the war. They live up in Samaria, just outside of Nablus on the Mount of Blessing, and it's an amazing family. They do some amazing things up there, helping Jewish people who live in Samaria with their farms, helping them plant trees and all sorts of things like that. They do a lot of good work for the Israeli people. This is a group of Christians that moved over there specifically to the land to help the people. Uh, Luke Hilton is one of the people that lives up there at Ha-Yovel. He's currently in Dallas. And Luke, you had something kind of unsettling happen. Tell us about that. What happened?
Yeah, thank you, Chuck. Good to be with you. We have an upcoming Israel summit. It's a 3-day conference here in Dallas, Texas. I had about 1,000 people registered in person and via online coming to attend the conference, just to bring Israeli speakers from Israel and to publicly stand with Israel. It's an educational event. About 10 days ago, our first venue ended up not working out due to growing security concerns. As everybody knows, there was an attack in Washington, D.C. that left two Jews dead. And because of that, the security situation when it comes to anything having to do with Israel and the United States is there's an escalating security concern. So thankfully, we're able to move to a second venue that was a private location. It was more rural outside Dallas city center. And unfortunately, 4 days before the event, the threat level escalated even more to the point that our organization and the Israel Summit itself and the venue host that was set to host us received threats, direct and indirect threats. And ultimately, because we just ran out of time and because of this crazy security situation, we had to, we're not saying canceled, we had to indefinitely postpone the Israel Summit. And honestly, this is what it feels like. It feels like in America in 2025, it's no longer safe for Jews and Christians to gather publicly in support of Israel. And I know that sounds wild and crazy, but honestly, that really feels like where we're at today, and it's very unsettling.
Now, how much of this is actual bad actors, Antifa, and all these left wing people who are known for making threats and carrying out attacks on organizations like yours and events like that? And how much of it is a extremely woke left wing city government in Dallas and police department in Dallas that really doesn't want you there anyway? And so did you get the sense that maybe they were coming up with excuses to get you to cancel this event, or were the threats real coming from somebody like Antifa?
We have been working with the highest levels of security, both private and on the state and federal levels. And I actually saw some of these threats myself, and it's exactly what you said. Organizations like Antifa made direct threats and indirect threats. They used the words, we're going to target the Israel Summit and we're going to target the organizers and the venue hosts. And honestly, because of the Washington, D.C. attack and because of the attack in Boulder, Colorado in the last 2 weeks, the words target to me and to so many people is a call for violence in America. That's my personal opinion. But after 2 Jews were gunned down in the streets of Washington, D.C., and people were firebombed in Colorado, to me, these groups are calling for nothing but violence against Jews and anybody who's standing with Israel.
So tell us more about this summit. What was supposed to go on there? And hopefully you'll be able to host this at some future date. But tell us about it.
Yeah, so the Israel Summit, it's our second annual conference. Ironically, last year, the event was nearly canceled after our first venue was shut down due to threats, same types of threats. But Dave Ramsey stepped in and hosted us at his state-of-the-art headquarters in Nashville, Tennessee. So this year with the second annual one, we're bringing a lot of people from Israel. We had IDF soldiers, members of Knesset, Ambassador David Friedman, an October 7th survivor, the Onina. We just had so many people. The goal was really to bring Israel to America and to the world and to introduce people directly to the people who are living there and to introduce people to the real story of what's going on there. Unfortunately, having to quote unquote cancel is the last thing that we ever dreamed we'd have to do, especially in the state of Texas, of all places. But we are determined that this is not going to be the end. We are going to reschedule. We're going to have a bigger, better, summit in the very near future. We'll be announcing that as soon as we possibly can because, Americans cannot take this lying down. America was founded on freedom of religion, freedom of speech. 2025 is not the time for us to lose American freedoms and values that we were founded on. I think it's time for Americans, especially freedom-loving Americans, Christians, Jews, to stand up and say, no, this is America. We will, have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and we will stand publicly with Israel today and the Jewish people.
Yeah. So what's the situation like in Israel? I mean, you guys have to deal with threats and violence all the time, especially in Samaria. We've seen that pregnant woman that was just murdered her baby as well. We've seen the rock throwing attacks that have happened on the roads as people try to transit through those B zones to get where they need to go and more. I mean, there have been attacks weekly, if not daily basis out there. What's the level that you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the last thing you would think is that, you're in Israel and then you come to America and you think you're facing some of the same threats with fire bombings and shootings. But yeah, in Israel, I was driving to the airport in Tel Aviv a couple days ago. There was rockets being fired from Yemen. Pretty much every day there's a ballistic missile fired from Yemen. The lady that was killed, the pregnant woman that was killed a couple of weeks ago, was just down the street from where I live. So, still a war going on in Israel, still threats every day. And, we're just praying that Israel would be victorious. And honestly, our goal in what we're doing and the goal with the Israel summit that was supposed to be held next week was for the world to have an opportunity to better stand with Israel, because Israel needs our support more than ever. And I'll say one other thing, because, there's a big push in America today for people to be America first and for the U.S. to stop providing military aid and such to Israel. My viewpoint is that there's no problem being America first, because America first means that we should partner and ally with Israel, because Israel's enemies are America's enemies. If you believe in the Bible, you believe in God, then Israel's enemies are our enemies as well. It in our best interest, whether whether you support Israel for spiritual reasons, physical security reasons, it's in our best interest to stand with Israel, because they're holding back the forces of evil and darkness just as much as Iran and the Houthis want to wipe out Israel. America is their next target. So coming together to stand with Israel in Dallas, Texas, it's just as much for spiritual reasons, Genesis 12, as it is in our best interest to stand with Israel and pushing back the enemies of darkness and enemies of evil.
So what was the conversation like that you had with the Dallas PD as you were trying to decide if you were going to be able to hold this event or not?
Yeah, and I do want to be clear, the police departments here in Texas, and we got in touch with federal law enforcement, the governor's office with DPS got involved. They were all super supportive, very cooperative. They really wanted to help us make this event happen. They assured us they wanted to do all in their power to make sure it would happen. One of the biggest hangups was the astronomical cost, because we received an initial quote close to $600,000 of mandatory security. Throughout the whole process, they were very supportive, and the governor's office was amazing. The attorney general's office was amazing. They really wanted to make this happen, and I think we will make it happen at some point in the future. Unfortunately, just things didn't quite come together in time. So
yeah, well, it's really too bad, but I think that God has a plan in this, and that by forcing this to have to be postponed, you're gonna get a whole lot more media about it, and so when it does happen, it's going to be that much bigger and that much better, and will raise more support for people in Israel. So how can Americans pray for HaYovel and for the Israelis at this time?
Yeah, just number one, continue praying for Israel. The Bible says pray for the peace of Jerusalem. You should be doing that every day. Israel needs our support and our prayers. There was another IDF soldier just killed in Gaza. They just announced the battle is still fierce, in Israel, whether it's with the Houthis, Hamas, in Judea and Samaria, the Lebanon border, Syria. So please pray for Israel constantly. We appreciate your prayers, because this is not a defeat. This is not, canceling the Israel summit. It's not a loss, a defeat. We will come back even and stronger than ever. And now the opportunity is for thousands of Americans and people from around the world to get involved. And that's our prayer. And our hope is that America will take this as a wake-up call, that the time has come to stand for freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and public support for Israel and the Jewish people. I think it's important in our day and age.
So, folks, if you want to stand with Ha-Yovel and stand with the Israeli people, you can go to their website, serveisrael.com. That's serveisrael.com, and support them over there. And I recommend that you do. They're good people, and they're doing good work. So thank you, Luke. I appreciate you. And let us know if there's anything we can do to help.
Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate it.